Melendez, and I'm going to explain my software that I created. Using Rust as a programming language, I created a basic calculator and a factorial calculator. You can see here in my files that I have my calculator app. In my source, I have 3 files. I decided to use modules for this. I believe using modules improves readability, just the overall organization of my code, and it helps me in debugging. You can see that I have my calculator file for my basic calculator, my factorial file for my factorial calculator, and my main file. You can also see that I have the typical git ignore file and the readme file and my cargo files here. I use cargo as a compiler. Cargo is a compiler that compiles my code, runs my code, and it helps me manage dependencies. First, I'm going to explain my module that's called calculator. You can see that I only used from the standard library. I did not use anything from external libraries for this project. Now in Rust, we have to create struct or structures. This is a public structure that's called calculator. In Rust, we also have to create implementation blocks. This one is called calculator. And then you can see my first function that's called calculate. This function is going to calculate so it's going to ask the user for numbers and for an operator, and then it's going to do the calculation depending on the user input. Okay, you can see that I use string here to store the user input. You can also see that I ask the user for a first number. In case they put something that's incorrect, a letter or something, then an error will print out this is an invalid number. Okay, you can see here that I also have this for my second number, and for my operator I have 4 options. Again, this is a basic calculator, so users can choose from these operators: adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. Now I use match from the standard library again. This makes a match with depending on what the user's input is. If it's adding, it will add. If it's subtracting, it will subtract. For multiplications, it will multiply. However, for divisions, it will be a little bit different because we cannot divide by 0. And if the user picks an unsupported operator, then it will print this out. Otherwise, if everything is correct, it will print out the result. Now I'm going to explain my factorial module. Again, I use everything from the standard library of Rust. I start a struct that's called factorial and an implementation block that's called factorial. Here I have 2 functions. My first function is called compute. And this function is important because this is the function that actually gets using recursion, this gets the result or the factorial result for the specific number the user has given us. And I use this function to run the program or the calculator here. For example, here you can see string used to store the user input. And then I use a simple loop. Okay, this loop will ask the user for a non-negative integer. If they decide to put something that's not a negative integer, then it will throw out an error and print out invalid input. Please enter a non-negative integer. If everything is correct, then it will print out the result, the factorial result, using the compute function. Okay. Now all these things are implemented here in my main file, in my main module. You can see that I use the keyword mod to declare the modules that I'm using, the calculator and the factorial module. I use the keyword use. This is used in Rust to bring the structs into the scope so that we can use them. You can see that you have the standard library, the calculator, and the factorial modules. And then I use this main function to display my menu. I use this loop to display my menu. And this is pretty simple. Users can choose one of these 3 options: basic calculator, factorial calculator, or quit the program. If they choose one, then this will call the calculator module, and it will call the calculate function. to perform the task. If they choose number 2, then this will go to the factorial module and use the function run to get the factorial of a number. If the user chooses 3, then it will just end the program and print goodbye. Okay? If they choose something differently, then this will print out. Now here you can see that I have these variables. These are immutable variables. Okay? It means that they cannot change. Let's see this code in action. Okay, so we have to type cd calculator app, and then we use cargo to run the code. Let's use the basic calculator. 6 plus 9, and it gives us the result. If we put 6 divided by 0, then cannot divide by 0. If we put 5 and then we choose plus and then a letter, then it will be invalid. Okay, let's go to the factorial calculator and let's put -9 in invalid input. Let's put a letter, invalid input. Let's finally put an 8, and you can see that I get the result of my factorial, and then 3 to quit my program. This is my software. I hope you like it. Have a wonderful week.